Hello everyone and welcome to Master Paul's Music and Games, where we are finally going to be playing Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I would have been playing this day one. Sorry, let me correct myself. I would have been streaming this day one of its release, but for those that hadn't heard, I caught COVID this week, so I took pretty much this whole week off from streaming altogether so that I could focus on getting better. As you can see, I've already been playing this game. I have my own character, but we're going to start a second character specifically for this channel. As always, Phil is in here with me. Let me get the chat pulled up, and we're going to do this. So, as you can see, the character I already have playing as, I was already playing as a Slytherin, and I would be open to doing that again for this character. But if anyone, basically, what do you guys think? What house do you guys think I should play as? Because I'm especially curious to see, if there's any differences in the story depending on what house you choose.
I understand there is. And that's not going through gameplay, that was going through what they said online.
Oh?
Yeah.
Alright, so
there's a couple, not main missions, but side missions that are oriented to the house that you pick.
Okay. Eddie Gannon, hello in the chat, is saying play as a Ravenclaw. Okay, I might. Let's see what other people say, though, before we make the decision. Phil, what's your vote?
Well, first I want to see the stream, because you don't turn it on as
usual. Hey, I had a week off, okay? I'm rusty. Cut me some slack.
Been slacking.
Alright, so we'll keep that as is. You know, we'll keep the hairstyle, too. I'm not going to do any scars on this particular character, not this time. Brows. Let's go that. No. There we go. Eye color. We'll do that. Alright, so
I am indeed a student, but I could very well be able to help you.
And look what is right here. Easy mode. But also there's story mode, where there's literally no challenge to the gameplay at all. But I know Cash would kill me if I did that. You know what? We're going to do normal. We're going to do normal. So Eddie says, upon my research...
You want to hit that easy. I know you do.
You're right, I do. Alright, fine. Eddie says, upon my research regarding the game, so much puzzles and gameplay, it just makes a better story, they say. Yes, I would say I'm about maybe a third of the way through on the save that I was doing before I started playing through this, and I am, like, really enjoying... Like, I'm gonna make a bold claim here, and Phil, if you've... I don't know how much you've played yet, but you might agree with me. This game could very well be a second Skyrim.
I haven't played it yet. I have it downloaded and ready. I still haven't gone to that site to get the cloak. But I plan on doing it, if not tomorrow, Monday.
Yes. Alright, so...
As far as the game, if you're noticing on YouTube, the amount of people streaming this, it is off the chart.
And why do you think I'm doing that instead of continuing Ocarina of Time? Which I will get back to, though. Don't worry. Alright, so my character, of course, I have named after myself. I'm just going to make up a name for this character. So we're going to say Solomon... Something that sounds Harry Potter-ish.
Stoughton.
Shut up, Phil. It's Stanton. It is Stanton.
Diggity.
Wait, who is that? Pacific in the chat, I hear?
Oh, it's me. Eddie.
Oh, hey, it's Eddie. What's up?
Hey.
Let's see. Let's see.
Solomon Diggory.
Okay.
What'd you say, Eddie? I couldn't hear that.
Lower your music.
Solomon Diggory.
Solomon Diggory.
Lower-
You know what?
lower
I
your
like.
music.
You know what? I like that. Tie it back to one of the actual characters. I could go with that.
Will be a
I'm
grandfather.
eager to get to Hogsmeade. It was wonderful. I believe I'm really going to enjoy this class. That was quite something. I am indeed a student, but I could very well be able to help you.
What's voice 2?
I'm eager to get to Hogsmeade.
Oh, that's
If
the
you
girl
can't
voice.
work
Never
some
mind.
dust, nothing to be concerned about.
We're not doing that. All right. So I think we have everything ready. So we're gonna go ahead and start.
Wait a minute. All got a haircut.
I actually did not get a haircut, at least not yet. I need one. I shaved
We
though.
didn't have a bit more time to spend on spellcasting. I presume you've been practicing the spells we worked on.
I have, Professor.
Well,
And just so
I'm
you
quite
guys
sure I've
know,
never seen anyone take so
I'm currently
quickly
running
to
this
a second
game
hand
on the
rule.
lowest
You'll be
possible
forced to
graphical
be
settings,
when you get your own.
and even then,
Thank you, Professor Fig. I
there
appreciate
has
you
been
watching this
some
time.
stuttering from my system. So if that happens during the stream,
George,
that's what's
that
going
rather
on.
cryptic description of our location did not thwart your finding us.
I've apparated to more vaguely defined destinations than this. Though I confess I may have miscalculated slightly on my first try. Gave quite the fright to some theatre-goers in the West End.
It's been much too long. When I received your owl, I must say I...
Best not speak here, Eleazar.
Of course. Why don't we speak en route to Hogwarts? We have a start-of-term feast and a sorting ceremony to get to.
Wonderful idea. As long as your young charge here doesn't mind me tagging along.
Not at all, sir.
After you.
Ages since I'd been to the castle. Would be good to see the old pile of rocks.
So Phil, you've already known this because I've been DMing you my progress of it, but I have now heard the entirety of Black Sabbath's catalog through Heaven and Hell. So,
Halfway there.
yeah. And of course, we've already agreed that we're going to do sort of a Black Sabbath career retrospective on your channel. But let's talk now specifically about those first Ozzy albums.
I can't hear you over that music.
Oh. Soon as... I can't do anything about that right now.
We'll wait till after the music.
Glad I
is done.
caught
Yeah,
you
we'll-
before you left the school.
We'll wait till after the cutscene's done.
Just barely.
May need to
And
do
who
some more
is
sound
your
mixing.
traveling companion?
A new student.
New?
Yes, sir. I'm starting school as a 5th year.
How extraordinary.
It is indeed. None of the faculty has ever heard of anyone being admitted to Hogwarts so late.
Nor have I.
Of course, as the other 5th years will have been honing their magical skills for 4 years now, the
I'll just
headmaster
read
asked if
the
I could get our new
text
student up
while
to speed a
sit
bit
up here
before
and
the
you-
term begins.
Okay.
Well,
That should be
you
better.
couldn't have asked for a better mentor. Professor
So, as you were
Fig is
saying-
not only an
I said,
exceptional teacher,
um,
he's also a remarkably
I wanted to
intuitive
talk to
and
you
gifted wizard.
about
Mr.
the
Osric is
basically
prone to flattery.
all
I
of the
dare say it's one
albums
of the reasons
from
he's
the
risen
first
so
one
far
to
in
Never
history.
Say Die, because that is
Have you seen this?
the first Ozzy era. I think you can agree with me is the one that people kind of
Opinions differ
go
as
to
how
the
great a
most
threat
when they
Bran
think of
Rock
Sabbath,
really
right?
is.
Although I've yet to convince
Well,
my colleagues at the ministry, I believe
I would say
he is a
90% will say up
significant
until
threat.
And it was your wife.
A lot of people don't want to
Eleazar,
count technical S
who alerted me to his activities
and
months
never
ago.
say die.
Miriam.
Right.
How?
But
She
I
wrote
like both albums, so
right
I say
before
you
she
have to
died.
include them.
Yeah,
Wondering
so
what the ministry knew about
the
his
first thing I want to
activities.
mention is that I
Before I respond,
severely
Received
misjudged
this.
Black Sabbath,
It was the last
specifically
thing she
that
sent
era
me,
of Black
Eleazar.
Sabbath, because
It came to me via her
despite,
but with no correspondence.
you
I can
know,
only assume
getting
that she
into
had to get rid of
Dio
it
and
quickly.
listening
to keep it
through,
safe,
you
presumably
know,
from
the
Ragnarok.
hits and
I
a
cannot
lot of
open
Dio
it.
Sabbath stuff,
Whatever magic protects this is
I
powerful indeed.
still kind of
It
went
looks like
into
goblin metal.
listening to all of this
That
stuff from
symbol,
Black
what's that
Sabbath.
glow?
Let me bring
I
the
don't see
mic
a glow.
closer. I still went into it expecting my conscience to hit me. You know, with some of the darker stuff that they, at least I thought, were gonna do.
Wait. We do not know.
And that really didn't happen.
Well, there's projection, and I would say a lot of things are projected at me. So I'm not going to disagree that there is some element, but I call it just like Alice Cooper. You have Alice Cooper, the artist, or people call him artist, singer, the band versus the band. It's a band first.
Yeah.
Then it becomes Alice Cooper as Alice Cooper later. But Alice Cooper is different than Vincent Faulkner. Faulkner is a preacher, Baptist preacher. But some of the things he sings about and some of the things that he does on is what it is. It's a performance. You're not going to hate Christopher Lee
Perhaps a bit.
or
Take this.
you know,
It's
he
Wiggenweld
did
potion.
horror.
That stuff will
you know?
hurt you in a second.
Before you see him in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, his big thing was horror. Just because he was in horror doesn't make him
What happened?
a devil worshiper.
Poor George.
True. Which people, again, made up rumors about
Who
him.
got into that
You have to remember,
attacking
people
a carriage
project.
mid-air?
Yeah.
A typical dragon would
If you
never.
listen to
Professor?
what's his name, the man who sung "The Devil Down in
Where are
Georgia,"
we?
Charlie Daniels.
I'm not sure.
Charlie Daniels. Everybody down
that
south
key
knows that
discovered was
song like the
clearly a
back of their
portkey.
hand.
Portkey.
You don't even have to say
An
anything.
item
You know
enchanted
it.
to bring whoever touched
But
it
just
to a
because my
specific
man
place.
sung about it doesn't mean he is a devil worshiper.
That is true.
I'm
You know,
feeling better,
You
sir,
have to get
if you
past some of
like to
that.
look
Like
around
I
a bit.
said, is there some element in
But stay close.
society that
We've no idea
they
who
do
created
believe
this
that? Yeah,
portkey.
there is.
Or why?
But you have to understand, entertainers. When you're trying to be discovered, you got to find your niche. You know, Elvis used to do. Anytime he went anywhere, he sung the Battle Hymn of the Republic, but he also sung Dixie, and he did both, and he meant to do both.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you have to play that, you know. Anything to get you popularity, get you discovered. I mean, look at it this way. Would Kiss get discovered or become popular like they did if they didn't originally start with makeup?
That is true, which actually is kind of something, which, by the way, Phil, I'm bumping up both your... Actually, Eddie, it's all the way up, but Phil, I was bumping up your volume in my headset because I was having a bit of a hard time hearing you. I also cut down by a little more than half the game volume in the game, so you should hear me better. But
I did because I muted the sound, so...
But that actually was kind of leading to my next question, and kind of the next thing I wanted to bring up. I wonder if all of those misunderstandings that people had of that band came from the name itself, Black Sabbath. I know that before they changed their name to that, the four guys that were in the band were known as Earth. Do you think if they released the same songs but still called themselves Earth, they would have had the same negative reaction?
I'd like to have a look around.
Absolutely, sir.
Good. Let's see if we can find a path, however faded it may be.
Phil?
Can you hear me?
Mind your step.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just turning up my microphone a little bit louder.
Okay.
But look at it this way. You have a Black Sabbath song called Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Then you have the U2 song Sunday Bloody Sunday. Did U2 ever get any controversy for that? No. But Black Sabbath.
Wait, hold on. Eddie said something about that. What was that, Eddie?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Oh, they did?
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
And is itself a strong
I wouldn't know the full details, but suffice to say, they because of the controversial political aspects to it, they got a lot of flack for that particular.
Why was your wife searching for
Right.
Almost because it was so controversial.
Yeah. Personally, I see both sides of the argument where I see their side of it's just a song, but I also see the other side where, you know, that particular terminology and the imagery and connotations it brings up aren't exactly ideal, to say the least.
It's not cold enough here.
So,
It appears to be a sort of enchantment.
I definitely think if Sabbath had kept their name as Earth, maybe they wouldn't have had the same negative reaction that they did. But at the same time, and I'm sure you can agree with me on this, Phil, if they had kept their name as Earth, I don't think they also would have gotten the same level of fame.
They with the name Black Sabbath and everything that came after it. They found their niche.
Exactly.
You know, Earth, could they have done it? Maybe, but not to the degree where. I mean, just look at the T-shirts, look at the artwork, and everything. You can't get that effect with the name Earth.
Exactly. Earth is like generic.
Yeah.
Literally anyone could call themselves Earth, but only Black Sabbath could call themselves Black Sabbath.
Yep. And it keeps up with that English tradition. If you ever notice, if you put like the Who, you can make a cross with the words. You put Def Leppard, you can make a cross with the word. You put Black Sabbath, you can make a cross with the words. And Led Zeppelin, you can make a cross with the word.
Yeah, I just now thought about that. So anyways, all of that said, listening to all of the Ozzy albums in preparation for our big stream that we're going to do at some point on your channel, I definitely enjoyed almost all of them. There was one, and you know which one it is, that I just straight up did not like. And I was looking at all of them just purely as a musical work. I wasn't looking at them in any sort of symbolic way or anything like that. And as a pure musical work, I was pleasantly surprised. I expected them to be good, but wow, were they good. Especially on the very first album.
Talk about the one or the two albums that were your least favorite.
Okay. Kind of by default, the very first one and Never Say Die were my least two favorites. Not to say at all that...
So you're saying the first album and Never Say Die?
So the first album, so Never Say Die is my least favorite, straight up.
Okay.
After that, if I had to choose something, it would be the first one, just simply from the just simply from the standpoint of you can tell that they still had some growing to do. And while it's... And only about the first half of that album do I really enjoy. Everything else is either NIB, which you know my problems with that, or just kind of boring.
So you do like technical ecstasy?
I do like technical ecstasy. I don't think it's even close to the best thing that came from the Ozzy era of Sabbath. I'll go ahead and say it now. I would say my top 3 favorites Ozzy era Sabbath albums are in this order. Number 1, Master of Reality. Number 2, very close. In fact, I could flip-flop these around, but for now, number 2, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and then number 3, Paranoid.
What in Merlin's name?
Okay. I would say for me, my favorite Black Sabbath album of this era is Volume 4.
Okay.
I like
and that's a good one too. I would say that's probably number 5 for me.
Then it would be Masters of Reality.
Uh-huh.
Then I would say the very first Black Sabbath album.
Okay.
I wasn't a fan of Sabotage, even though it was better than what some of them other later albums were.
Sabotage was good, but clearly not the best. And if I understand the story correctly, while they were in the process of making that album, that was when like the problems between Ozzy and everyone else first started, and their old record company was in the process of suing them.
Ozzy quit.
Yeah?
Ozzy quit. There was actually a guy that replaced him.
David Walker of Fleetwood Mac, if I'm not mistaken.
So, but I will tell you this. I am a big fan. I'm not the album, but Never Say Die, the song. I love that song.
Okay.
The rest of the album you can flush down the toilet, but that song, Never Say Die, that is the best song that they have at the latter part of the Ozzy era of Black Sabbath.
Stay close.
So, all of that said, here is probably my biggest problem from a musical standpoint with the Ozzy era songs, is that some of them, for example, Megalomania, I forget what it's called, but the final track of Never Say Die, and there's a few others that I'm forgetting, but I know I've heard them, that just stay too long. Like, the section... So you know how in the song Megalomania, there's all that slow build up to the main riff, and then, you know, you have Ozzy singing the main part? They could have cut that slow part out, in my opinion, and just gone straight to the main riff.
That's why you have radio edits of songs.
Right, which...
Album released back in the 70s. Every band has what you would, I guess, musicians call it coda or coda. That is like normally at the end of the song, sometimes in the beginning of song. You have an extended period before it actually gets to the song. That was big. I can't think of a band in the 70s that did not have that lead into the actual music into the song.
Right.
And at the end of the song, that didn't die out until like the mid-80s, where you purely wanted it. They start telling what you would call a radio edit. Just do a complete radio. And a radio edit is just the meat and potatoes of the song. Right.
Like, for example, the song Paranoid.
Yeah.
That's the perfect example of just a no-nonsense, get-in-and-get-out song that, frankly, I prefer from Black Sabbath.
But when you listen to the Deep Purple, you see the songs going 6-7 minutes,
Professor.
and that was not, like I said, that was not unheard of back then.
Mhm.
But as you get into like the early '80s and going further on, you see songs only last 4 or 5 minutes.
Right.
In some cases, they would even, if the song was longer, then you would get the longer version on your album, and then the radio would get a radio edit, and sometimes you would get that on a 45.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you, which you never mentioned.
Real quick, hello to Alan Copeland. What's up? Go ahead.
I'm gonna hire Alan Copeland if CEO Matt Shiny Risman doesn't hire Alan Copeland. I'm hiring Alan Copeland.
For what?
I might take on the RBN network. But Technical Ecstasy, you never talked about Bill Ward's first and only time singing a song on a Black Sabbath album.
That's because I never noticed it.
You
I
didn't
thought it was
notice?
always Ozzy.
No. There at the, I think it's side 2. One of the songs is Bill Ward.
Really?
Yes.
Now, why, aside from wanting to, did he do that? Why didn't Ozzy do it?
I'm not sure.
Was that during one of those periods where Ozzy was having problems with him?
No, I just think they were just throwing a bone to Bill Ward.
Okay.
And he didn't
Here's,
sound bad. He didn't sound bad.
since you're mentioning that period of time,
Professor.
I know a lot of people
Let me think.
gripe about Technical Ecstasy with being a bit too experimental,
Revelio.
but in my opinion, Never Say Die was the one that was
Yes,
too
a
experimental.
revealing charm.
Musically,
No time like
that
the
album
present.
is all over the
Let's see
place
what
and
we're
not
missing,
in a
shall
good
we?
way, in my opinion.
Ready your wand.
Like I said, the only song and the only thing I like from it is Never Say Die, the song.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the album looked like, and the songs were what I would call throwaway.
Revelio.
When you buy an album,
I saw something.
not everybody's the same. Sometimes you have some people. First Black Sabbath album with a Dio, Heaven and Hell. There's
Yeah.
not a throwaway track on there.
I
A
would
throwaway track-
I would disagree on that. I could do without Lady Evil.
Professor.
I love Lady Evil. That's one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs.
If what you
I understand why you don't like it, but musically,
It's not even for that. It's just musically, to me, it's the weakest one.
lead the way.
oh, I love that. I love that more than Neon Nights. I would say
That is heresy.
no.
This is
I
your ordinary
I think if you have
This is
any
not
Dio
the
fan of
way
Black
to
Sabbath,
What do you mean?
they would say that they love Lady Evil.
Do you think this is some
The
sort of
music to
test?
it,
I do.
yeah, I love
To
it.
what end I can't
See,
say.
I
I
disagree with that because I think, in my
There will be
opinion,
no disapparating
Neon
if
Nights
things
is
go
like
poorly.
a second
Not out of
Paranoid,
Gringotts.
if such a thing is possible.
Yeah, I can see that. But when, like I was talking about the Never Say Die album, every track on there to me is a throwaway track except for Never Say Die.
Hmm.
I mean, even to this day, the only reason I remember
is it?
buying that
Glow
album
again.
when it came out
On the floor.
was purely for Never Say Die. The
Yeah.
rest of the album, I didn't care. I listened to it maybe a couple times, and that's it. Now, Technical Ecstasy, the Bill Ward song I love. I'm probably sure you're not a fan of the wording of Dirty Women, but you have to admit that song as a riff,
Are you all right?
that's an awesome riff.
Yes, sir.
Admittedly, I wasn't really paying attention to the lyrics. I kind of already said this. I'm not really paying attention to the lyrics when I listen to these. I'm paying attention to the musicianship.
But only as a
Okay.
reflection in the floor.
And
Understand because you play guitar,
I
but
presume this is what you saw
if you go back and listen to the lyrics, it will not, for you, not saying for me or for everybody else, but for you that probably lyrically is not your thing, but the music and the rhythm of that
Perhaps
song
you should cast Lumos.
Even to this day, I love it. I love that. But I'll be honest, technical ecstasy is okay, but it does not compare to the first 5 Black Sabbath albums.
I agree.
Well
And
done.
Sabotage
It does follow the light.
Sabotage was another one, like I said. I don't hate it. It's not nearly as bad as, in my opinion, Never Say Die is. But as far as like the quote-unquote classic Sabbath stuff before Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, it's the weakest in my opinion.
I think Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, and Never Say Die, at that period of time, Black Sabbath was going on the coattails of what it done on the past.
Yeah, like
They were just going through the motions. If they could have put a Teletubby song, they would have done it.
it's funny that you say that because I was watching. I listened to all of these albums, by the way, for free on YouTube because the whole album is uploaded multiple different times, and I think it was Never Say Die that I read it, that I looked at the comments and saw someone else basically make the point that by the time Ozzy left, as far as his time in Sabbath goes, musically he had kind of hit a glass ceiling, while the other 3 members still had growing to do, and were willing to make that growth. So you could almost make the argument that the other 3 members outgrew Ozzy.
Well, let's be honest, and they even, Iommi said it. When they were writing,
Professor Fig.
what would become Heaven and Hell,
This isn't good.
they still had Ozzy there. There is a version of demo. I don't know if anybody ever heard it. Slightly different lyrics, but there's a version of Ozzy singing "Children of the Sea."
Really?
I would love to hear that version.
That would be interesting.
But yeah, they knew at that time while they were working on it, Ozzy was in a different place.
Lumos.
And the drug use and everything, not that the other guys didn't have it, but Ozzy was gone
What's happening?
as far as the drug use.
Wisps of
So
magic
I
seem to be
do not
leading
blame
somewhere.
them saying, Ozzy, go your own way.
It's just
Sadly,
it's just a shame that Ozzy
That glow again.
basically took it in the worst way possible.
yeah, but he didn't stay long because, like I said, Sharon brought him out of it. And he had a good career. But if I was in that place and time,
Revelio.
after going through Technical Ecstasy, and don't forget he quit and came back.
Lumos.
Performance-wise, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die are
Way out of here.
not there. Not even as a Black Sabbath. I would say them two are, even though they probably did slightly well, than the Black Sabbath with in the 90s.
Tony Martin?
Tony Martin. I think they're worse albums than any of them. Only album I would say that that is poorly done beside them two, and I hate to be mean, but 7 Star. I would put them 3 albums as Black
See,
Sabbath. But
I'm surprised that you said 7th Star. I thought you were going to say something like Forbidden.
no, I like Forbidden. And I like TYR, but
That's tier.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people just pronounce the letters. Black Sabbath fans, not everybody call it that way. But
Right.
It's unfair because I'm going into the Tony Martin era. But like I said, these 2 albums for me are the worst Black Sabbath albums, the last 2. And it's a shame because you had the original band. But when you come out of it, if you were to go from, and I even hate to use Sabotage, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave Sabotage there. But if you were to go from Sabotage to Heaven and Hell,
I think that would be a nice transition.
Yeah, you say different singers, but it doesn't miss a beat. It's Black Sabbath. Them two albums, beside the song "Never Say Die" and maybe "Dirty Women," there are the only two songs off them albums that I could say could be or should be are Black Sabbath songs. "Never Say Die" is was still being played by Ozzy, and when he reunited with the original Black Sabbath. "Never Say Die" was there. One of his first albums was Live Greatest Hits. I can't forget the name of the album, but it's practically all Black Sabbath
Speak
songs.
of the Devil, I believe it was called.
Yeah, there you go. And one of the songs, "Never Say Die."
Which, if I'm not mistaken, Randy Rhoads, I heard a couple songs from that album just out of curiosity, and they're not bad per se, but I infinitely prefer the original Sabbath versions than Ozzy's re-records with his own band. Because as great as Randy Rhoads is, in my opinion, at rhythm playing specifically, Tony Iommi absolutely smokes him.
In his genre of Black Sabbath. In Black Sabbath. When it comes to Black Sabbath songs.
Randy Rhoads, and I've learned to appreciate Randy Rhoads quite a bit, actually. I would have ask Ian and his friends and his brothers. I was not a big Randy Rhoads fan at first, but I've come to respect Randy Rhoads. But that being said, he's good at specifically the Ozzy Osbourne stuff, not necessarily the Black Sabbath stuff, in my opinion.
I agree. I will say this for myself. I liked Randy Rhoads, but you never hear me mention him top 10. I probably can squeeze him in maybe 15, top 20, but he is not. I would say with Ozzy, he was probably Ozzy's best guitarist.
I would agree with that.
But
by the way, Jake E. Lee a close second.
Yes, I like Wild and everything, but he's no Randy Rhoads. And I know a lot of people back in the 80s always were comparing Randy Rhoads to Eddie Van Halen.
That surrounded them.
To me, there's no comparison. Eddie is far superior.
But for me, when you're talking guitar gods, okay, if you're going to have to do, if I was going to say, if you had musical teachers, it would be what's his name from Deep Purple?
Richie Blackmore.
Richie Blackmore. It'd be Jimmy Page, even though I'm not a super fan of Jimmy Page. It would be Jimmy Page, Brian May, and
Tony Iommi.
Tony Iommi, but his own style.
I could agree with that.
But I would tell you this: if you're going through the 70s and early 80s of inspiring guitarists that inspired people, might not have been his favorite, but inspiring. Ace Frehley inspired more people than any of them. Not saying he was the best guitarist, but most people. Look at what you get. I know you don't like Slash, but Slash is.
Hey, hold on! I never said that. I like Slash, okay?
But you said he was. Would you put Slash in your top 20?
No.
Okay. But Slash is a pure. It's there. He's Ace Frehley style guitarist.
Right. But enough about Ace Frehley. Let's talk about Tommy Thayer. I just found his signature episode guitar on Facebook for sale.
He is an imposter. And when the day comes and we go through the Kiss catalog, which will probably take us a year, you will understand why they call him the Big.
I
No,
know.
when
I just said that to pull your shade. So
when he was not in Kiss, he was a good. I wouldn't even put him up there as a great '80s guitarist. I wouldn't put him in George Lynch mode, but I will put him slightly under the next tier below him. He was a good guitarist. Thing is, when he got to Kiss, he doesn't do anything that is Tommy Thayer. He is doing Ace Frehley. And that's that's totally different. If you join a band, I don't care what type of guitarist you are, and I understand you want to make money, and he wanted to make money, let's be honest, he wanted the job.
yeah,
But you still would want to put you into that, not be the person that you were before. You honor the person that you're replacing, don't get me wrong, but you don't go note for note, move for move, and when you're singing certain songs, look, there's a song, and I hate to differentiate, but I have to point it out. You can go on YouTube, and you play Shout It Out Loud with Ace Frehley, and Shout It Out Loud with Tommy Thayer, and Shout It Out Loud with Bruce Kulick, who didn't wear makeup. Ace Frehley sings a part in the song, Come On Everybody Shout It Out. When he was replaced, Vinnie Vincent didn't sing that song. Mark St. John wasn't there long, so he doesn't count.
I've never seen so powerful a
But Bruce
goblin.
Kulick never in his 10 years said that
Totally
part.
unaffected by my magic.
Tommy
Right.
Baker comes along and sings that part. That's part of the song before. No one but Ace Frehley sung that part
It
of the
seems
song.
those who set up
Them
the
four
Kiss,
words. Come on, everybody, shout it out now.
and the path to both wanted someone with
He's
your
a faker.
ability.
Everything he does, even his guitars, imitating Ace Frehley.
I know. Beginning.
I'm sorry, we rambled off,
It's
but
fine. And Eddie, I'm sure by now we've bored you with.
he left.
Oh, he left? Oh. Well, Eddie, I'm sorry if you felt unincluded.
Well, we always include everybody. Everybody is entitled to say their piece and say
Yeah.
something. But yeah, like I said, when you listen to Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, even if you're not in the inner workings of Black Sabbath, you're not there at the rehearsals at that time, you can see that needed to die.
Yeah, because it was getting stale.
Yeah.
Like, it started, to me, the pinnacle of specifically the creativity in the band was Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Yep.
Sabotage, it plateaued and ever so slightly started to decline, but with Technical Ecstasy and especially Never Say Die, it had gotten stale.
I think, and that happens to a lot of bands. Look, everybody runs that little wave.
Mm-hmm.
I think once they hit the peak with, I think it's Volume 4, Sabotage, even though it's okay, is not like the previous albums. But it was good enough to get by. But I think from that album on to Never Say Die, them 3 albums, they were just riding on the coattails of the previous albums they did.
Yeah. Well, hold on. You forgot to mention Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Yeah, I like that album. But which one came? I have to look at the order. Is it...
Okay, so here was the order. The first one, Paranoid, Master of Reality, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, Never Say Die.
Oh, good.
You forgot
We haven't missed
the
the
Black
sorting
Sabbath
ceremony.
Black Sabbath album.
I said it. I said the first
I'm
one.
no expert,
Oh,
but
I didn't hear
that
it.
seems more
But,
appropriate.
yeah. I mean,
I need to study this locket as soon as I can, but
But
first
besides
I must
the
contact
last
the
two,
ministry. They need to know
if
what
you're a
happened to
Black
George in
Sabbath
Wand of
fan,
Ranrock.
or even
For the
just an
moment,
Ozzy
I ask
fan,
that you keep all that's happened this
you would
evening
want
between
you would
you
want
and
from
me.
Black
Of course,
Sabbath
sir.
to Never Say Die.
Thank you.
You would want that if you're
Ready
an
for the sorting
Ozzy
ceremony?
fan. If you're a diehard Black Sabbath fan, you would also want that. But let's say you like Black Sabbath, but you're not all that crazy about owning every album, I would still tell you, get the first 5.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be buying a bunch of these. I'll probably buy, honestly, all of them, even Never Say Die.
But to me, I mean, I could tell you this now. I do love technical ecstasy. I like it. I know a lot of Black Sabbath fans don't. But I especially love the Burl Ward song. And I'll get you the name of it.
If you're lucky, we might still be able to get you sorted this evening.
I'll be in touch.
Alright, time to get my characters sorted into their house.
Professor Weasley, we've one more to be sorted.
Welcome. You're just in time. Have a seat.
Ah, yes. A bit
Okay,
older than the others, aren't you?
Bill Ward sings the lead vocals
Come
on
here
the
with
song Swinging the
preferences
Chain.
and preconceptions.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that one.
And he
Expectations.
does background vocals on A Hard Road. And believe it or not,
Forward to exploring Hogwarts
everybody
and the
seems
world's
to have
beyond
done
castle grounds.
back vocals on A Hard Road. That's something
Much
that
can be
is not
gleaned
done by
by
Black
having
Sabbath,
an
where
adventurous
every member sings the harmonies
Professors have a great
on
deal to teach you
a
as
song.
well. Interesting. You've recently learned that you possess a rare ability.
That's a shocker.
Yeah?
I
And
detect a
another
growing
shocker.
sense of ambition,
Another shocker.
an eagerness,
Don Airy, known
you
from
belong in Slytherin.
Rainbow and Deep Purple.
And Priest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is doing keyboards on Never Say Die.
Real quick, the Sorting Hat is wanting to put me in Slytherin again. Just for... We're gonna take it. Slytherin it is. But didn't Don Airy also play on a lot of Priest albums?
Not sure. He did a lot of work.
I know for a fact he played on that one. You know that one Japanese band I was telling you about, Anthem? He did play a lot with them.
You know, it's hard for me to say
And
a
one
person
more
to replace John
Due to
Ward.
the unfortunate injury
but
on
Don
the
Airy
last
was a
Blitz
perfect
final,
choice.
This year's Quidditch season has been
He was a perfect
cancelled.
choice.
Enough! It's not as though I've banned flying altogether. But don't tempt me. You are here to focus on your academic futures. I'm sure
So
you will
let's
have
do
plenty
this.
to do
I've already
before
given
classes
you
begin tomorrow.
my rankings out of 10 for each of the Ozzy albums, and I'll say them again for the sake of the chat. But I want to hear what your rankings out of 10 are for each of the Ozzy era Sabbath albums. So,
All right.
Professor
what's the
Weasley,
what's the
would you be
first
so
one?
kind as to show our
First
new student
album,
to their
I
common-
will give it
I shall
an
see to
8
it, sir.
Okay.
for me. The second album is named...
Hold on.
Please
Okay.
take it.
Why what keeps it from being a 10 out of 10?
It is my distinct honor to show you to your common.
Very few albums for me are 10 out of 10.
Okay.
All right, and really great albums are 9. But
Quite uncommon for a student.
the
to
very
begin
first
as a
Black
freshman.
Sabbath
It
album
may be a
is
bit of a challenge,
wonderful in
one
every
I'm
point,
sure you're up for.
but it is not a. It's not a. Definitely not a 10,
I
and I
suspect
can't
this
give it a 9.
This is
Okay.
the
I like
entrance
it.
to the
I love it.
Slytherin common.
I love the
In order
one
to enter,
song
one
"Fairy
simply
Wear
speak
Boot."
the correct password.
But
Hold on, that's not That's not the first album. That's Paranoid.
Very well.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Because there's two versions of that album. There's the one
It wasn't on the version of the first one that I heard.
All right, hold on. There's the American version and there's the British version. One is Vertigo, and Vertigo did. I'm not sure if they were the English or the American album company. Okay, but one of them has the Fairies Wear Boots, and the other one does not.
I'm looking it up now. Fairies Wear Boots, according to Google, is on Paranoid, not the first one.
Hold on, I will get this information.
So while you're looking that up, what's your score out of 10 for Paranoid?
8 out of 10.
Okay.
I know they're both, the very first two albums are both 8 out of 10. I will give it, let me do this one. 8.5 for this one.
Okay. Okay. And again, what keeps that one from being a full, or a 9 out of 10 in your case?
Okay, a 9 out of 10, the best way to compare it would be White Snake, that album.
Uh-huh.
All them songs are hits, but they aren't just hits, they are mega hits.
Can I help you?
That album is a mega hit.
You're the new
Bon Jovi,
here.
Slippery When Wet.
I'm Sebastian
Yeah.
Sallow.
It's a mega
Welcome
hit.
to Slytherin.
Thank you.
These two albums are
Everyone has a
great,
ministry escorts to
but
He was a friend of
I
Professor Figgs,
can't
who made
put them
us
down
the
as
right.
mega hits where I
Still,
could say
impressive.
every track is going to
Dreadful
keep
way
me
to go,
there.
poor fellow.
Oh, no. There are a
Glad you
couple
and
of
Figgs
songs that
were
are, I don't want to call them classified like throwaways,
Professor Figgs and I were
They're
lucky
good
to fit with our
songs.
lives.
but
Indeed.
not to the high quality of
escape.
other songs
It's
that are
all
known
still
on
a
the
bit of a
album.
blur, to be honest.
Didn't mean to press.
Hmm.
You just get yourself settled.
And
We can talk
the
more
next
later.
two albums for me are actually better than the first two.
It was nice
So,
meeting you,
Master of
Stratford.
Reality then.
I'll
What's
let you
your
get back to
rating
After
for that one?
reality, that one, if I gotta give Black Sabbath a 9, it would be that one.
Okay. And I do agree, there's not a track on that album that I dislike. And surprisingly, the one that I was expecting to like the least kind of ended up being my favorite, and that one's Into the Void.
Ugh, not going to move there, are you?
Here, watch this.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
Checkmate.
Told you.
Okay? Now you gotta remember, cut me a little slack.
Ah,
That-
I know
Okay.
who you are.
Uh,
You're the new Slytherin,
Black
the
Sabbath
one who
is
barged in with Professor Fig last
one of
night.
my favorite, not one of my
Interesting
favorite
tactic
bands,
on your first
top
day,
bands,
taking all
but
the
I don't
attention
know
away from the
everything of
Friskers.
Black Sabbath, so
I'm
bear
Amanda,
with
by
me.
the way.
Fairy
When I
Wear
was
Boots is
originally
a song
sick, I
by
could have lured that
Black
dragon away.
Sabbath.
My
The
skills in a
original
book are
1970 US copies of the Paranoid album, the song was listed under Jack the Stripper.
Huh.
So it was renamed on the American album. On
think you're underestimating the
the
nature of the dragon.
British
A
album,
Brum would have been
it
killed.
was Fairy Wear Boots.
Ha,
But it
But
was
the-
not the
also...
way I
it-
fly. Perhaps one of these
So
days I'll show
which
you a thing or
which
two
album
about
was it
flying.
released
I can
on
teach you
though?
more than
The
Kabbalah.
first one or
saying
Paranoid?
Speaking of which,
It's
I'd like to
saying
get some
here that
training
it
in my
was
brain before
released in
practice.
1970, which 1970 would put it on the
Goodbye, Melba.
Black Sabbath
Nice meeting you.
album, but on here it's saying it was the Paranoid album. It was
No,
Paranoid
it's
because
both-
what your hold on, let me make sure. I remember about this before. I'm trying to go with the album.
I'm looking it up too,
Trying
by
to
the way.
release the Black Sabbath album. What year was that? Yes, 1970.
Yeah, they were both released in the same year.
Yep. And there's one album that has Fairy Wear Boots is on the Black Sabbath original album. On the other one, it's on the Paranoid. Because I have a copy of that on cassette. I have two copies: the Vertigo and the Warner Brothers. And on the Warner Brothers one, I believe, does not have the Fairy Wear Boots, and the Vertigo does.
I'm looking it up now.
I'd much rather have arrived on time and without a dragon attack en route.
I'm sure. How horrible. I can only imagine.
Well, it's good.
Yeah, it's...
Do let me know if I can be of
It's
any
not
help to
on
navigate
the first
through
one.
those
It's on
mazes.
Paranoid. I've tried every way to find where it would have been on the first one, but no, it's on the second one.
Because they also have a song called The Wiz.
The Wizard?
Yeah, and I think that song also was iffy on certain albums.
Wait, hold on. Do you mean The Wizard or The Writ?
The Wizard.
The Wizard. Oh, I love that song. Especially the harmonica at the beginning. But, in fact, I almost want to say that The Wizard is like the best between The Wizard and Black Sabbath. The song is like the best two songs on that album, in my opinion.
Yep. Let me see if it says it on here and I can find it.
Yeah.
Under the Black Sabbath, the album.
And while I'm thinking about it, I want to mention this too. As I've already said, you know my issues with NIB, which for those that don't know, my issues with NIB are apparently that song is allegedly about the devil finding love in his heart, which, as a Christian, I don't believe that's even possible. But I will give that song this. As far as the musicianship goes, Tony Iommi's playing, Geezer's playing, Bill Ward's playing, and even Ozzy's singing as far as the notes he hits. It's great. But to me, the lyrics kill that song for me.
Understandable. I think that was a play. NIB was a play off that Rolling Stone song, Can You Guess My Name?
I'll listen to it at some point. I don't know yet when, but I'll listen to it.
What is it?
In fact, let me do this. I forgot to... No, never mind. I was gonna ask you if you could pick, like, your favorite song off each album, but we'll save that for your stream.
Alrighty.
So, we already talked about the first three. So, Volume 4.
I gotta give Volume 4 a 9. I gotta give it a 9. For me, that's my best Black Sabbath album out of all Black Sabbath.
Out of
all of it.
Out of all, even better than Heaven and Hell.
Heaven and Hell comes close second.
That is impressive.
It misses by a small margin because, look, I can listen to Volume 4 front to back, no problem, all day, every day. For me, it was that Black Sabbath hitting on all cylinders. You know.
Okay.
Do keep up.
What about Sabbath Bloody Sabbath?
See what details the field guide can provide.
Revelio.
Yeah. Again, I'll give that an 8. We'll give that one an 8.
Okay. And why does that one rank lower than Master of Reality in Volume 4?
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is good, but to me it does not compare to them two other albums. No.
Okay.
Good, don't get me wrong, good. Is it a step down? For me, it's a small step down, but not by much. Not by much. The other two albums, look, if you were never a Black Sabbath fan, them two previous albums, Volume 4, and
keep your eyes open for more opportunities like
what was that other album? I don't have a list here.
Sabotage?
Master of Reality and Volume 4 them two are to me the core. If there was 2 albums, they're it. They're it.
Okay.
Masters of Reality and Volume 4.
What about Sabotage?
Okay. First of all, points have to come off for that cover because Bill Ward looks hideous. I don't know if you ever seen the cover of Sabotage.
I have seen it, but I'm gonna look at it real quick again just to see exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, Geezer Butler looks like Geezer Butler. Ozzy looks like Ozzy, but Tony Iommi, I think he shaved his mustache.
No, he didn't shave his mustache, but he did get a haircut. I'm looking at it now.
Look at Bill Ward.
What are those pants he's wearing?
Only a drinker would drink and wear something like that.
That's long underwear. Those aren't pants.
I can't believe they actually put him on there with that on there.
Yeah, if I was in charge of shooting that, I would look at him and be like, go put on a pair of jeans, come back when you're done, but you're not getting on this, you're not being in this picture with that.
So automatically right off the top, because what you see also plays in what you hear, that has to take some points. But overall, I would say Sabotage is a 7.5. Maybe
Okay.
a 7. Let me change it straight to a 7.
Technical Ecstasy.
For me, I love this album, but as a Black Sabbath album, 6.
6. Okay.
6. Even though I do love the album.
Alright, and then finally, Never Say Die.
Take Never Say Die off the, as love that song, that's a 9 for me. But for the song, but for the album, it can't save the album. The album is like a 2 or a 3.
Okay, here's my scores for all of them. The first one, 7.5 out of 10. And again, it's because to me, it's all about the first half of the album. Pretty much from NIB onward, I'm not a fan. Paranoid, 8.5 out of 10. There's really nothing... The only reason I'm not giving it a 9 or a 10 is just because I don't think it's quite deserving of that. Even though there's nothing outright offensive about it. Master of Reality, 10 out of 10. That album is perfect. Volume 4... You know what? I'm just gonna say it. Volume 4 is on the same level as Master of Reality, so I agree with you on that. But the one thing that I would give Master of Reality over Volume 4, and this is coming from a guitar player, is I like Tony Iommi's guitar tone better in Master of Reality. So I'm going to amend my score on Volume 4 and call it a 9.5 out of 10. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, another perfect 10 out of 10. And in my opinion, that has Ozzy's best vocals. Sabotage, 8 out of 10. It is a step down, but I still liked it. Technical Ecstasy, 7 out of 10. And then Never Say Die, 4 out of 10.
We did take a bit of a detour on the way here. Ended up exploring some ruins, and I shouldn't say more.
So what do you think of those scores?
I think it's well done. I think you're right on.
Thanks.
I'm a little higher than mine, but that's fine. That's fine.
Your ears must have been burning.
But I think after going through all these albums, we can agree you can see the rise. And in Ozzy's case, the fall. And if everybody questions why Ozzy was axed, all you have to do is listen to the Never Say Die album, take Never Say Die off, And not that he's the only one to blame. The other band is the rest of the band is to blame too. But I would say Ozzy's going through the motions more than the rest of the band.
Right, because aside from the drugs, you could tell that he's just not being creatively fulfilled.
Of course.
No.
Thank you. Good luck today. And remember
So,
to use your
that being
field
said,
guide
I've also all the way
to be
listened through
invaluable to
Heaven and Hell, and I've given that
invaluable
also a
to
10
me,
out of 10
as I'll be
because
using it to keep up to date on your progress.
aside
Yes,
from
Professor.
Dio being
Come
Dio,
join
and in
me
my
in
opinion,
classroom after you've attended both
of what I've
classes
heard of
today,
it so
and I'll
far,
explain more about those assignments I mentioned.
the Heaven and
we'll see
Hell
if we can't
album
get you to Hogsmeade
is
as a
Dio's
surprise.
best vocal performance I've ever heard, bar none. In fact, there's one song, and you already know, there's one song that doesn't do it for me, being Lady
It's good
Evil,
to see you, Professor.
And you.
but that's still
I was
not a
hoping
bad
our paths
song.
would cross
It's
today
just not my
before you
preference,
immersed
is all it
yourself in
is.
studies. Did I hear you and Professor
I will
Weasley
always, I know
talking
some
about
people say, when Dio
exploring
in there,
ruins?
they think of it as another album, another band. But to me, if you go from Volume 4
Yes, sir. But I
straight
didn't tell her
to
anything else about her travels. I will say,
Heaven and
I
Hell,
think she suspects we're
you're
not
not
being
missing a
entirely
beat
forthcoming.
with Black
Yes,
Sabbath.
well,
I would
Professor
disagree
Weasley
and
is a
throw
brilliant
Sabbath, Bloody
and
Sabbath
astute
in
witch.
there.
I,
You would like to take the details to yourself
I will,
now.
like I said, it's
We don't know where
it's
this path
higher than the other
upon
two,
will lead.
but it's
It
nowhere
may
up
require a
there
bit
with.
more
I wouldn't put
flexibility with your time than
Sabotage
she would
anywhere
approve of.
near.
And she may feel obliged to share
I would put it
details
even
with the
lower than
headmaster
Born Again.
that would be better left between us.
That's one I'm not
Understood,
looking
Professor.
forward to, by
Good.
the way.
Now, as
Well,
capable as you are,
we're gonna
I
find
believe
you
the ability you possess
the
obliges
one
you
that
to be
was
well-trained.
mixed properly,
Happily,
not
you
the
have
official
benefit of an
release.
exceptionally
The
skilled
one that
group
was
Okay.
of witches and
proper.
wizards to guide you.
Because
Here's the thing, though,
Speaking
and
of
here's why
guides,
I'm not looking forward to
and
that
so
one. It
that I
has
may
nothing
avoid
to do
another
with the
not
mix.
so subtle reproof from Professor
I just
Weasley,
don't like Ian
why don't I
Gillan's
show you the
voice.
clever enchantment we included in the field
To me,
guides
it's
map?
too
Unfold
boring.
it and have a look.
And the little snippets that I have heard of his voice off that album do not impress me. In fact, he sounds like he's straining his voice.
That's you'd listen to him in Deep Purple.
And he sounds okay in that, but even still, David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes blow him
This will be
right out of
incredibly
the
helpful.
water.
Thank you.
Now, sounds like you've
I'm a
covered every
die.
head of the
Let's
classes
not put it
to
this way.
Hogsmeade
I'm
for
close to a
supplies,
die-hard
including
Deep
your
Purple fan.
own wand.
Uh-huh.
You'll enjoy Mr. Ollivander. He's an exceptional
I
craftsman
will
and a good
agree
friend.
that
I shall
for
reach
me,
out when I have more information about
David
our
Coverdale
mysterious loss.
paired with the
For now,
singing of
focus on your classes and pay attention.
Glenn Hughes,
More than your owls may hinge on the magic
okay,
you are able
is
to
better
master within these
than
walls.
Ian Gillan.
Mm-hmm.
But individually, they couldn't by themselves, no. But I will take Jolyn Turner over Ian Gillan, that's for sure. I'm as an individual singer. Overall, for me, the best singer was David Coverdale, but he owes a lot when he's in Deep Purple to Glenn Hughes.
Agreed.
If you listen to Jolyn Turner and his one album that he did with Deep Purple, you would be like, why did they? I was always in favor of. I would have loved to seen him have a second album with Deep Purple.
Well, you know why it took so long for him to get there, right? Because he was busy. He was busy playing with your favorite guitarist of all time.
Well, the story there goes: they fired Ian Gillan, they bring Jolyn Turner in. I thought it was a good album. I'm not sure about the tour. People are picky.
Hold on a second. Who exactly fired Ian Gillan? Because if I'm not mistaken, Richie Blackmore...
Okay.
Richie Blackmore was in Deep Purple after Rainbow kind of just ended, right?
Here's the story, and I'll do it as quick as possible.
Here,
Original Deep Purple
behind you.
had the original
There's a
singer, I
button
can't
seat
forget
here.
his name, and bass player.
Mm-hmm.
They did 3 albums,
Hello,
then they
I am
replaced the lead singer and the
So
bass
you
player
are the new
with
student.
Ann Gillen, and Roger Glover. That's why it's called Mark II. Mark II is the classic lineup. Then, for whatever reasons, Ann Gillen decides to quit. And Richie Blackmore's like, okay, let him quit. But if he's leaving, we might as well get rid of Roger Glover, which I think was a major mistake. Okay? The man didn't leave, but he had no choice. So you get David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. I love that version of the band. Then in 76, they disband Deep Purple. 75, what's his name? Richie Blackmore, once he goes and forms Rainbow, Dio. And when Dio leaves, his first choice is auditioning Ann Gillen.
For Rainbow?
For Rainbow. But he decided after a couple auditions against it. Now, mind you, when Dio, before Dio left, Roger Glover joins Rainbow, and it was him that went up to Dio and said, look, the record company wants us to write some
something more pop.
And Dio's like, that ain't me. It wasn't nothing personal between him and Roger Glover. It was just that
and if I'm not mistaken, he didn't even have bad feelings with Richie Blackmore, right?
No. Even though he was the one, and when they did the last show together, Richie Blackmore went to him and told him, it's nothing personal, just business. Which I can understand because he came with Ann Gillen. So even if he would have stayed, what kind of resentment would have been there? You see what I'm saying? But for the sake of harmony, sometimes you have to do it that way.
That is true.
So when Deep Purple gets back together, everything's fine up until from 84 to 89, and then the Ann Gillen, Richie Blackmore arguing starts appearing. So Ann Gillen throws down the gauntlet and says either Richie goes or I go. Well, they already been there before, so they said goodbye.
Yeah.
Now, even Roger Glover told him goodbye. So they bring in Joe Turner. They make an album, do a tour, but here's where sometimes people don't understand. The record company and the touring company, because you have to understand, when you go on tour, you sign contracts. You ever see, like, I don't know, U2 on tour, sponsored by Anheuser-Busch, the beer company, Budweiser. You don't think they have pool? Yes, they do. So they sit down with the record company and the tour, and they say, look, we want Ann Gillen back.
Hold up one second. I thought the lineup for Rainbow went Dio straight to Graham Bonnet.
Went from Dio to Graham Bonnet to Joe Lynn Turner. Band dissolves because they reformed Deep Purple.
And then Dio brings in Doogie White.
Yeah. But hold on. After Deep Purple gets back, Mark II lineup. It's 84 to 89. By 89, the argument starts. But it's always an argument between Ann Gillen and Richie Blackmore. He threw the gauntlet down, say either Richie goes or I go. And the band told him, well, goodbye. Ann Gillen's not there. So they bring Joe Lynn Turner for an album and a tour. Then the record company, after the tour, the record company and the touring people got together and sat Deep Purple down, and they said, we don't care. Either you get Ann Gillen back or you're done. So the rest of the band's like, okay, we'll tell Richie that you have to get Ann Gillen back. And Richie was like, didn't want him back. But he threw out a number and he said, well, if I get $500,000 in my bank account, yeah, that'll be fine. He didn't think he would get it, but they gave him $500,000. So they bring Ann Gillan back. Now, mind you, they had already start recording the new album. They bring Ann Gillan there. He rewrites the song. They do the tour, and by the time 3/4 of the tour is done, Richie Blackmore said, "I can't do this. I don't want to be here," and he left. And that's when they got what's his name?
Neil Morse?
No, Joe Satriani.
Oh.
Originally, they wanted him to stay in Deep Purple, but he had other contract. That's why they went with Mr. Moore. But
Right.
as long as Ann Gillan's in Deep Purple, well, they're ending the band anyway pretty soon. But as long as Ann Gillan's there, Roger Glover and
Richie Blackmore just won't be there.
you know, that was the big thing for the Hall of Fame. Them two do not get along. It's been that way since they broke up. The original was back in the 70s. So sometimes like husbands and wife and people get divorced, they just can't get along.
Yeah.
Very good.
I know we got with the Deep Black Sabbath, but
I do need to correct myself, though. I initially said Neil Morse. I got that wrong. It's actually Steve Morse that I meant to say.
and actually he left Deep Purple recently. About I think about 6 months ago, because his wife had cancer, I think it is, and he had to quit. And they got some Irish guitar player who is actually quite good.
I saw a clip of him. Oh, crap. I saw a clip of Ian Gillan with Deep Purple singing Highway Star. And yes, whoever the guy is playing guitar is good. But holy cow, has Ian Gillan's voice fell off a cliff.
Well, you have to remember he's been doing it for what, 50 plus, 60 plus years?
Yeah, especially that shrieking "I love it" part in Highway Star. That can't, especially if you're doing it wrong, cannot be good for your voice.
If you notice, he's not doing it as loud as he could have back in the day. Yeah, he is not the singer from the 70s and the 80s. It's not there.
No.
That's why I would say bands should be more like Deep Purple when they had David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. When you have a second singer, or even back singer, that helps. That relieves a lot of the stress. A band like Kiss, where most of the time all four members can lead sing, but especially back vocals, that helps you.
Yeah.
You know that Paul Stanley's lyrics are song is being backtracked, which we will discuss at a later time. Wait till I show you Motley Crue and Vince Neil. He makes up.
I have no interest in Motley Crue. I've seen what they look like nowadays. No, thank you.
The guy doesn't sing the words. He makes up words.
Yeah, I have no desire to partake in any of that.
It's pretty bad when a person can't get on stage and sing the songs that you perform, not someone else's songs, your song, and you don't know the lyric. That's been too much drugs, maybe?
Very good,
Yeah.
both of you. Well done.
Not to mention how much he's physically degenerated.
Agreed. And then you get somebody like Alice Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't change a beat. Rob Halford doesn't change a beat.
No.
Glenn Hughes, but then you have to remember, Glenn Hughes, even though if you count from the time he was in Deep Purple till now, he wasn't singing every year that he was, in music.
Yeah.
There was long periods of time where he wasn't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 years. That saves your voice.
But then again, though, imagine that one infamous fight that he got in when he was part of Black Sabbath that ended up with him getting axed and Ray Gillen takes his place.
You know the story behind that?
Apparently he got drunk and
It's a lot to take in all
got
at
into
once.
a bar fight with someone, and he broke his orbital bone, and it went into his nasal cavity, and he suffered internal bleeding in his throat, and it physically prevented him from singing.
What happened was they were on the tour, and Tony Iommi had Ray Gillen during from the start of the tour.
Well, it's been nice talking
on call
and competing
Yeah.
with you.
The reason why he had on call because he knew the people in Deep Purple,
Mm-hmm.
next time.
and they had already told him, look, he can be unreliable. We advise you to have somebody waiting because you never know. So he comes on tour in the United States,
I did.
and someone says to him, you do know there's another singer ready to replace you.
Outdoor competition wasn't exactly the
Yeah.
lesson I was
So
expecting,
he, I'm not sure if it was right after a live performance, goes to Iommi and starts yelling at Iommi, I know you're getting ready to replace me. I know you have someone ready to replace me.
It was a challenging match.
Iommi and the rest of the band walked away, and one of the, I'm not sure if it's a roadie or a crew member,
Yeah.
goes up to him and tells him, you need to go. So they get him into the elevator, and then Glenn Hughes goes into the elevator, starts going off, and the guy punched him in the face. And that's exactly what you said, how, he had a piece of his orbital bone go into his thing, starts bleeding, couldn't sing, couldn't do anything. So, in effect, he did it to himself. So, guess what? Ray Gillen bailed out the rest of it.
And can we both agree that Tony Martin is probably the luckiest guy to have been in Black Sabbath at all? The only reason that he was there is because Ray Gillen got AIDS and ended up passing from it.
Yep. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it works out. I can't wait till we talk about the Black Sabbath after Ozzy. The Dio, he's there, then he's not, then he's back, then he's not, and then they do Heaven and Hell.
Exactly.
But, and I will tell you this, if you think about it.
Let me see something.
Dio's first album, Holy Diver,
Mm-hmm.
could you see that as a Black Sabbath album?
No.
Me, I can.
If anything, I see it more personally as a more hardcore Rainbow album, especially songs like Holy Diver itself, and really especially Rainbow in the Dark.
I could see that as a Black Sabbath album. Not as heavy as a Black Sabbath album, but I could see it. And the only reason I would put it up there near a Black Sabbath album, because him and Benny are on there. Benny Appleseed.
Right, which he stayed with them for quite a while until I believe his name is Rudy Sarzo took his place at some point.
No, that's the bass player. Rudy. Oh. Okay, he has a lot of people, but for me, that 2009 version of Dio. What's his name? Oh God, I can't believe it. I forgot the guitarist's name.
Vivian Campbell.
No. Actually, when you think Dio, there's another guy, Craig Goody. He's actually quite good. But this guy is, oh my God. Give me a minute.
Then again, he tends to be overconfident in his. Well, better see to my charms homework. I'm afraid I can't count on beginner's luck to impress Professor Ronan.
Real quick, while you're thinking of that, I want to draw everyone who's watching attention right now and have a look at what my character's wearing. So, this is what you get if you're able to connect your Hogwarts Legacy game to your Harry Potter fan club account through WB Games. You get this special cloak that's even more school spirit to your Hogwarts house. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that ascot that he's wearing, and whatever the heck that is that he's wearing underneath the robe, but the robe itself I like, and for this playthrough, we're going to use it.
And then the werewolves joined the goblins in the uprising.
Werewolves, where were you? In the Goblin Rebellion of 1752.
And by the end of it, the Minister for Magic was Albert Boot.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, what fun! I won't say my goodbyes. I should share
Doug
the points
Aldrich.
as you're telling
I'm not
lies.
telling lies.
Doug
Peter.
Aldrich.
It was Albert Boot.
That's who took over for,
No, it started out with Vivian Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to Craig Goody. Then there was an 18-year-old kid. When Ozzy had Zach Wilde, Dio had this 18-year-old kid. Then he goes back to Black Sabbath for what's that one album?
Dehumanizer.
Dehumanizer. Then after that, he went back on his own. He got Craig Goody again, and then Craig Goody left, and then he got Doug Aldrich.
Game is really starting to clip now.
Rudy and Doug Aldrich came in 2004, 2005. But per bass player, he had Bane, then another guy, then he had Jeff Poulsen from Dokken, then he had Rudy Scarzo. But for me, my favorite lineup is the 2005 lineup with Doug Aldrich and Rudy Scarzo. And
Okay.
Rudy does the bass for that Christmas song with Tony Iommi. And,
Yes.
and
which is my favorite version of that song.
And that is what got aka Black Sabbath, but Heaven and Hell together.
Mm-hmm.
That song. So I really wish there was a second album for Heaven and Hell. And I will say this, since Dio is dead, I would have liked to see Heaven and Hell do another album, and I wouldn't have minded Glenn Hughes in that role.
Mm-hmm.
There's the final show that Heaven and Hell did was a live show in England. It was a tribute to Dio. And Glenn Hughes and another singer are singing the song. And Glenn Hughes does an excellent job.
Yeah.
So,
Today
but,
we will review a spell that
and you have to remember, there's a family tree. Remember the big family tree?
Yep, I've seen that picture.
Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Kiss. If you follow that family tree, almost every band you can think of is tied to that family tree.
Yeah.
Let's practice what
In fact, if I remember, the tree starts at Deep Purple itself, if I'm not mistaken.
The joke of the day when that first came out was the Kevin Bacon of music.
Yep.
Because they always say you always can trace every actor and everything back to Kevin Bacon. Well, you can trace almost all these bands and musicians back to Deep Purple.
Yeah, that is true.
Now, let's try something a little larger.
And Doug Aldrich could have been in Kiss. Him or Slash. They both were in 1982, both 18 years old. Both did well, but Kiss determined they were just too young for it.
Yeah.
Couldn't back then take an 18-year-old on tour. No.
Let us begin with
Not how wild concerts and live shows could be. Especially the age of groupies.
Cast. This time, cast Levioso first, then the basic cast.
I was there, Paul,
Remember.
and I can tell you.
Good.
Yeah.
The basic. Well
Girls could be crazy at these concerts. And it's not unheard of, because sometimes they can pass for it. 14 and 15-year-old girls, to get them in the mix of 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-old girls. And you had to, I mean, back then, you had to be somewhat careful. Imagine if that was the situation now. There are some people, bands, you didn't have to worry about that. Dio, I don't think Dio ever cheated on his wife. I'm saying he wasn't human. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I don't see Dio going there for that. You know what I'm saying? He was purely a performer.
What's up, Crit?
Where's my $70?
$70?
Sue me.
50 cents for every a word that he uses on his
Sue me.
Play some of them if you have them, Crit.
I'm gonna take your shoes and your socks.
We can expect great things from you. I demand excellence from my students. They are capable of achieving it, and they must achieve it. A classroom duel is one thing, but battling dark wizards, or as ever more likely, goblins, is a different kettle of Grindylows entirely.
Understood, Professor.
So, I'd advise you to keep practicing whenever you can. Perhaps Mr. Sallow will have some ideas for you. Again, well done today. I shall reach out soon with additional assignments. All right. That's enough spectacle for one day. Class is...
I'd hate to face Professor Hecat in a duel.
If you know the right spells, it's dark wizards that'll fear you, not the other way around.
You drilled Sebastian. He's strong competition. Well done.
Nice work.
I enjoyed that.
Well, that duel was quite something. Everyone will be talking about it.
It was certainly good practice.
Practice? Felt more like I was dueling an expert. Didn't expect a new student to be so deft with a wand. Then again, perhaps this wasn't your first duel.
I've dueled enough. Consider yourself lucky I held back.
Huh, fair enough. You owe me an honest duel when you aren't. You know, you might be a perfect fit
I will be
for a
right back.
certain exclusive, unsanctioned dueling organization.
So, Crit, how was the Among Us stream after I left?
If I'm gone,
It was good.
and if that guy tries using my voice, count the letters.
Knew I
Count
was
the
right
letters.
about you.
Okay.
If you want to
50
get
cent a
the
letter.
most
Sue
out of
me,
your time at
dickhead.
Hogwarts, you'll need to keep the rules down, right? Whether it's joining a secret dueling club or sneaking
That's
into
$2.
You just said a no word. Yes, you did. It's true.
That's $72 now,
Thank
Crit.
you,
If you don't
Sebastian.
get off that
I'll keep
fucking...
that in mind.
I got it. You did it again?
Perhaps somewhere
You did it again?
unsanctioned. We'll see if your performance today was sheer luck
Oopsie doopsie.
or actual skill. Look for Luke and Brattleby near the clock tower entrance.
Were you able to get any good groups, though, after I left?
Till next time.
I was on the vac tube for a couple hours. And
Oh, okay. What were they doing over there?
just talking.
Ah, fun. I haven't been over there in a while. I need to get back there at some point.
So they uploaded a voice fix for the so-called Sirona Ryan
A voice fix?
that got deleted by Nixus Mods. But I still have the copy saved up.
I see. So I take it this is a voice fix that makes Sirona sound like how she looks?
Let's say pitched up.
I see. Well,
And
Wait a minute, guys. I think a Phantom Hooligans stream is going on right now.
Uh-oh. Get
Oh,
your
no.
binoculars.
well, you know what? We should go support him. So we're going to go ahead and end this stream. And
I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm looking. He might have lied to us. You have to be careful, Paul, because sometimes that Phantom Hooligans
I'm looking.
Nope. He took it down.
Oh, he took it
Oh,
down?
no,
it's up.
He's
It's
there.
up.
Let me go there.
Send me the link real quick. I'll put it in the chat. Actually, no, never mind. I found it. So I am putting the link to this stream in the chat. We're going to go support Cash Money as he plays Saints Row 2. And in the meantime, hold on a second. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, everyone,